Dun, dun, dun. This is a confrontational question.
Do you think?
I do. I think there's a lot of discomfort with looking at this. Not for me personally,
I'm not going to say not for
but
me either.
not for me.
I'm so
But
confident.
I I brought this topic in because I have a client who really struggles with it. Um, she's a gift giver, like in the 5 love languages,
hmm
and her love languages. Is it true that you have a love language that you like to like for yourself, but also the way you like to be with others, and might they be different?
Yes, they
Maybe.
can be same or different.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So her love language for others, not necessarily for herself, is gift giving. So she likes words of affirmation, but she likes to give gifts to others. It's the way that she feels connected. And she really struggles with feeling like there's this part of her that is doing it for the way it makes her feel, for her own need to be liked or thanked or appreciated and valued, almost like it's like a token of, if I do this thing, then I will get. And that does not sit well with her. She constantly invalidates, and we could talk about, like, is that valid or not? This experience, because she feels like she's benefiting from it somehow. It's
hmm
hard for her to talk about that. It was a really confrontational moment in session when we talked about that.
Well, if her love language for receiving is words of affirmation, then people expressing appreciation for her gift, that's just her wanting to hear her love language back.
Yeah. And is that about her then? Like, is there any such thing as a completely selfless act?
No, and I don't think there needs to be.
I
And
agree.
I think that's
Darn
a
it, we got there
beautiful.
too fast.
Yeah, okay, let's just play the outro. But I think it's a beautiful thing, and I don't think it makes it any less meaningful because it's circular. We have relationships with people that actually, if we are giving something out and then we're receiving something in return, even if the thing we're receiving in return is just feeling good about the thing we did, sometimes that
Right.
can be enough. And that herein might be the difference, that I've definitely been in that place where I have been, in my mind, generous about something and then not had the acknowledgement. I don't mind that as much. What really starts to hit a point in me is if people start expecting things of me.
Yeah.
So let's say if I go out with a friend and I normally pay because maybe I've got more money than them. If they start sitting back and waiting for me to pay, oh, I feel a kind of way, which is being taken for granted, which feels to me slightly different than someone, giving a big thank you about it.
Oh, yeah. Well, someone giving a big thank you is very different than somebody taking advantage. Is that what you said, taking advantage, or taking? No, you said taking for granted, which is
Taken
a
for
bit
granted.
different. I was
Yes.
thinking taking advantage, which
Yeah.
it could be both.
Yes. Well, what about an act where when you give something where you're not going to receive, you're not going to receive anything in return? Let's say giving to charity. Okay, you might
Yeah.
get a thank you email and then you might get spammed with a load of junk mail after you've actually given.
Yeah.
I still, for me, that it's about how I feel about doing that.
Yes. There's probably a spectrum here, as there is with most everything, around how much we are seeking from that act. So I have a person in my life who very much, gosh, I mean, I think she does a lot of things to get those words of affirmation. And it's almost like really explicit. Whereas where she doesn't get that back, she gets mad. So in that instance, there's a seemingly explicit transactional relationship between, in her generosity. But I think that it could also be what you're saying, where it's like you're not getting something back and it don't necessarily need it, but you still are receiving something. And I remember when I was 19 years old and I had just newly gotten my license, and I was driving down the Mass Pike on the way back to school, and I paid for the toll. Remember toll booths before Easy Pass? You had to like slow down and put in the quarters or whatever. Well, I don't know what you used to put in. And
We have road tax. So we pay
we do
road
too,
tax
but we
on.
still have to pay
Oh, we've got
tolls.
some tolls, but not many. But go on.
Oh, okay. I wonder what the difference is now that I think about it.
Mm.
Anyway, sometimes there would be lines and lines. Anyway, it was just the worst. But I remember paying for the guy behind me. Like, obviously, I would never get any recognition for that because I drove away. Like, I don't even know who they were. But still, I wasn't looking for thanks, clearly. But what I did get out of it was still some self-interest in that it made me feel good. It made me feel like I'd contributed. It made me feel like I was making somebody happy that day. It was making, you can get nitty-gritty with it, where it's like, is that still an act of self-interest, and I think it is, because it was about the way that it made me feel. But it was also a nice thing to do. And it was also something that maybe did make their day. And that's great too. And this is one of those, like, it doesn't have to be either or, where it's like, if it's any bit of self-interest, if you're getting anything from it, even if it's just a feeling inside of yourself that nobody ever else knows about, that somehow invalidates the fact that you also, as a byproduct of that, contributed to someone's day being a little bit more happy or whatever it is. They both can exist together. In the same way that we would hold somebody accountable if they did something that hurt somebody else and didn't mean to, there's still some level of, like, I think we're quicker to judge that than we would be to acknowledge that there's also a way that you can do two things at once in the other direction.
So I have a similar one. This must have been, gosh, 7 years ago, something like that. And I was thinking about this idea and I thought, what would be the most selfless act, kind of a thankless, selfless act? And I came up with one and I went and did it. I was walking down the street and I saw a car with a parking ticket on the car. And I took the parking ticket off the car and I went home and paid it. And I thought that person will never know that they were saved from a
Yeah.
parking ticket. So there's not even an idea that someone had a little boost from that, because
Yeah.
that person would
They
never
wouldn't have
know
even known.
that they
That's
had a
so
ticket to begin
selfless.
with.
Well, but why did you do that?
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember, because when you were saying that about the quarters, it popped into my head. I didn't even think about that when I was planning for it. I I was probably practicing some spiritual principle I heard somewhere or other.
Well, maybe it, like, made you feel good, like a good person?
I think so. I think it was just playing around, like, this, like, sounds, I don't even know what this makes me sound like. I'd forgotten I'd even done this. I think I was playing around with this idea of, maybe there's something even egoic in it. Like, can I do the
Yeah.
most selfless thing
Yeah.
for the least amount of glory, if
Yeah.
you like?
Yeah.
And that was the one I came up with. I can't remember if I actually heard it somewhere, whether I came up with it myself. I don't actually remember. And then I had a thought afterwards. I thought, because the car was quite an old car as well. I don't know if I would have done it had it been a super expensive car. And I think that would have just been a drop in the ocean for them. Quite an old car.
Kinda
And
means
then,
something.
but I remember it bothering me afterwards, because I thought maybe, like, that car might have been abandoned. It was just like,
You just
it
paid the
wouldn't have
town.
mattered anyway. Yeah, exactly. Just
You
gave,
paid City Hall.
just gave the council a bit more money.
Well, there's no harm in that either, maybe.
Do you think there's something as well, when I was thinking about this episode, versus abundance or scarcity mindset, when it comes to doing things that we might think of as more selfless? So we're not looking to get anything back from that person or specifically for ourselves, other than hopefully it might feel good. I'm thinking about just generosity. So there are people who are more generous and people who are more frugal. And as somebody by temperament, ever since I was a kid, I've always been more generous. I've always felt like there's plenty. And I used to really judge and have very negative views of people who weren't, because I just thought they were really selfish.
Mm.
And just with, maturity and growing up and understanding people a bit more, I understand the scarcity mindset is very different to
Mm.
selfishness or not wanting to give anything
Yes.
to anybody else.
Yes. Yes.
But I wonder whether that can play into it as well, when we are, particularly in the act of giving something, because giving doesn't necessarily just have to be money. Even the giving of, if love or approval felt scarce at home because it's shared between siblings, or you feel like you can't get your share, then we could be quite withholding about that, because we're left with a felt sense that there's not enough. It's not rational, but it's
Yeah.
like a felt embodied sense of not enough.
Yes. I think it could go in either direction. It kind of reminds me of the relationship we might have with food, right? Like, where if there has not been enough, that we might lean more towards that and hoard, 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 or we might go in the opposite direction just to prove to ourselves that it is, that we have enough of something or not. Like, it's kind of like why binging is more disorder of scarcity than gluttony, like, ironically. But yeah, I think the relationship is there, and maybe it speaks to the way we might challenge it. So if there is a scarcity mindset around, let's say, words of affirmation, right? Like, if we grew up in a household where we did not receive validation, and then we offer that to others. Oh, I kept seeing that too, where, like, I get my hair cut, which I'm actually going tonight. And there is this person there, this woman there who is like the one who's always coming over like, do you need tea? Do you need coffee? Do you need this? Do you need that? Is this too tight? Is the gown good? Is it too hot? Da, da, da. And she does it in such a way that I am like, I actually wrote an essay about it for Substack because like I'm so claustrophobic by it. Like it's so over the top to me, and it feels very excessive. And I have this thought in my head. I'm like, I wonder if she is somebody who didn't get taken care of or in a certain way. And she has this scarcity around it. So she overcompensates by like taking extra care of every little need that could possibly arise. And I was thinking about the irony of how annoying that is. Like to me, just like I don't appreciate that because it seems like there's some kind of overcompensation for it. But I wonder if we're questioning this in ourselves and we're saying like, is this something that I'm doing because I'm getting something from it? And the reason I'm even noticing that is because it happens so much and there's some kind of energy attached to it that I'm picking up on. Is the antidote to do the opposite thing a little bit, if we even need an antidote? And it would work the other way too. If we're withholding, might it be a stretch out of our comfort zone to actually offer more? So if we're leaning into the scarcity, what would it be like to lean into the abundance? And if we're leaning into the abundance, what would it be like to lean into, I don't mean lean into the scarcity, but lean into some more boundaries?
This is interesting because I'm more interested in your reaction to this person than I am in this person
Go ahead. I'm
making
happy
this
to
big
talk about
fuss.
it.
Because I'm thinking, what is it that makes that hard
Oh,
to receive? Because I could be there in a similar situation and just enjoy somebody like
no,
making an over the top fuss. I'd be like, this is fun.
no, I find it, here's why. It makes me feel, actually, I was thinking about this when I wrote the essay about the introvert in me. It feels like an encroachment. It feels like I have to constantly be caretaking her to give her my response. Like she needs something from me. That's what it feels like she's doing. And in this case, it does feel like not a selfless thing. It feels like it is about her because it's overdone. And it takes me out of my, it's like I have to constantly be like, no, thank you. And that's a performance for me. So it's kind of like, I can take care of myself. There's a certain amount of accountability I can have for my own self, my own needs, and meeting them. I do not need this. And you're putting it on me is actually an inconvenience. And I think there's a little bit of the self-awareness piece that gets to me because I'm always just like, you don't need to do that. And it is quite excessive. It's really, really excessive. And that's why I'm naming it. I think if it was less excessive, I'd be like, all right, I'll take another cup of coffee, or like, sure, this is a little bit tight. I'm also not somebody who complains about things like that. So it's kind of like, if it's too tight, I'll loosen it. Like, it's no big deal. I can take care of myself. Am I just an ingrate? I don't think so. I don't think I am.
No, it's not about that. But I think, we're back to Eckhart Tolle's quote, which is part of one of the quotes that shapes this whole podcast, which is to be as curious about our own reactions as we are about the thing that caused the reaction. I wrote an essay on it
because of it.
I can see that, but I'm curious that what is excessive. No, maybe most people would agree it was excessive, but the reaction I find really interesting. Like it pulls out in you like a responsibility. I'm somehow responsible now for making her feel better. I just don't think I would feel that.
Oh, but you are. Well, if you were an introvert, you would think that because you have to, because I'm thinking in my head, like when I get my hair cut, I'm like in the zone. I'm in my own zone. And I'm like, okay, this is my me time. And then I have to constantly be like, da-da-da, 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 whereas you're already out there. So to you, it's just, part of the interaction. I have to transition to do that.
In fact, if I haven't had my needs checked on for about 90 seconds, I start to...
You know what? I'm going there tonight, so I'll try to see if I can look at it through an abundance mentality. I'll let you know.
And it might not be abundance. That might not be quite the right word because I think you're talking about a slightly different process here as well. Yeah, that over the top, that too muchness, I think affects you differently to how it would affect
as it would
me. As other things, other way around too.
Yeah.
From our intro question, which if no one ever knew I did something good, would I still do it?
Yeah.
I realize now, having mentioned it on the podcast, that now a load of people do know that I paid for someone's parking ticket. And so there might be some people that think that that's pretty awesome. And maybe in some people's eyes, they think that's a great thing. Some people might think that's a really strange, weird thing to do. But I remember at the time being like making sure I didn't tell anybody about it. It comes back to there's a quote in the Bible, and I can't remember which way round it is, but it's either let not the left hand know what the right hand's doing, or the right hand know what the left hand's doing. And the idea being is that when you give or when you do something generous, is not to elevate yourself in some way, make this
Right.
big announcement of this is what you're doing. Um, and that one always stuck in my head as well. So I remember feeling there've been a few times where I've done things and been very conscious to, because I'm somebody who wants to tell everybody everything. And I've had to consciously shut my mouth to say, don't
Yeah.
go telling everybody about that thing you did,
Mm-hmm.
because it really, in my mind, it looks like I'm trying to go, look at me, look how generous I am, look how abundant I am, look how,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that gives me the ick a bit.
Definitely. And I think too, there's different ways of talking about this. In the beginning, we were saying like you can have both be true. You can do something without acknowledgement and have it be somewhat about feeling like a good person or whatever it is, and that's still okay. But also, I think sometimes to look at like, are we doing things and telling people about it because we're identifying with something? We're identifying with being a good person, or we're identifying with being generous or being somebody who overextends. And I do know a fair amount of people who identify like that. Like it is the way that it's who they are. It's their role is to be the one who's always there, who's always giving, who's always sacrificing their own needs for somebody else, right? Like the porous boundary kind of thing. This is at times an identity because it makes a person feel safe. And again, I think there is kind of like that idea that people pleasing isn't really about pleasing the other person. It's about staying safe yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if that's going on in a kind of chronic way, to notice that and to notice like, and the ways that might show up is, are we seeking the feedback, or are we talking about it? Are we making sure other people know about it? And is that a clue that there's something that we're looking to receive something more for this than just that human connection need, right? Like that is also valid. And I noticed that in myself, I think I used to have more of an instinct to talk about things that I had done to my parents. It was only them that I needed to tell it to. But I noticed that I would have these times, I didn't like go in on purpose to say it, but I noticed that I would mention things because I wanted them to know. And it was like a way of being like, I am good. And I don't need to, I noticed I don't even think about it anymore. And there's something about feeling like I'm okay with myself more so now. And I don't need to prove who I am through these things.
Do you remember what kind of things that might be that you would have said? Can you think of any examples of what you might have said to your parents to, I guess, get them to see you that way?
I feel like it's weird because I feel like saying it feels even now like I'm like, I don't want to say it because it makes me feel like I'm being like, hey guys, everybody guess what I did. It's
No,
like, and I don't identify with that now, and I don't want to.
I know,
Um,
and you're not. I just really, really want to know.
yeah. My gosh, like any kind of a lot of those anonymous deeds, right? So by extension, they weren't anonymous anymore once I told my parents, and this is the point.
Mhm.
But when I would, actually during a time when I didn't have much money and I was really like living paycheck to paycheck, and I would announce that I had donated to a charity, like, and
Mhm.
I would just always be like, I contribute to this and I contribute to that. It was like I do things for humankind, and to be honest, I think that the reason why I wanted them to know that wasn't because I felt like I needed them to think I was good, but it was more to help them understand that you could do things for other people without it being ego-led. Because that was something that I ran up against with them, right? Like,
Mhm.
so it was kind of like, do we do everything out of self-interest? Like, is that your MO? I'm gonna show you how it's not my MO, ironically.
Okay.
It was.
So it was almost more about proving a point then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But subconsciously, it's not like I knew that I was
Sure.
doing it for that.
Sure. Well, you saying that is making me sit here a little bit sheepishly because I thought actually recently, very recently, I told Dad about a generous thing that I did. And I remember when I told him that thinking, I want you to know I'm still generous.
Yeah.
It wasn't about trying to change the way he saw me, because the story in our family was always that my brother took after my mum, and they were this is the language back then, the tight-fisted, stingy ones. Actually, I just think they were more frugal. I wouldn't use that language now. And me and Dad, we were the generous spenders. And so I remember when I told Dad thinking, I knew I wanted him to know. It wasn't about changing anything, but it was almost, I guess now that um financially I'm doing better, there's always a bit of guilt that I carry about making money, just small
Yeah.
stuff that's around. So I want him to know that I'm not too big for my boots, and I still help out other people that perhaps,
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah.
doing as well financially. And I wanted him to know that it didn't feel like it was coming from an anxious, insecure place because I didn't think he thought that anymore. But there was a little part
Yeah.
of me that was like,
Yeah, the little parts.
we're still the same. We still do this. I
Yeah.
want you to know that there was
There's a
something in that.
connection.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually something I wanted to bring up because I think that there is sometimes when we're saying something to somebody or announcing something like that, I think the thing we're getting from it at times is if it's not a feel good for us as in ourselves or a way of sort of acknowledging something or making a point, But sometimes it's really just about connecting with another human. And is there a way to feel good in life without it being about some kind of connection, whether that's to a human being or to the world around you or to humankind or even to yourself, right? Like I think we thrive on connection itself. And so there's something about gift giving or doing a good deed that is about creating more connection somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And why is that bad? You
No,
know
I
what I
don't.
mean? Like,
This is
yeah,
the thing. Neither you or I are saying
I
that it
think it
is.
is. So
I
yeah, we're the
think,
worst people.
yeah, there's a guilt. And if we think about why somebody might feel guilty about that, it all comes down to morality, probably early conditioning. Like, what did it mean to be selfish? What did it mean to be generous? Whose needs were prioritized at home? What was the expectation of you? Because if you're somebody who, especially as you go on in life, you're the one who's chronically giving out, giving out, giving out. The danger is that you end up in a dynamic with somebody who loves to take, take, take. That's
Yeah,
when you get this sort of
right.
toxic dynamic because it's almost like a loop the cycle needs to go round. So I do something generous for you. That makes you good. I see that makes you feel good, or I know that makes you feel good. And that gives me something back as well. Maybe you show some appreciation as well, and that adds to it too. Don't know how many times, and I see it in myself a bit, probably, yes, but more so in a few people that I've known and worked with, that if the people around them just showed a little bit of appreciation for what they're doing, they would do 10 times more.
Yeah.
You see it in a work situation
Yes.
constantly. If you feel valued as an employee, you really feel valued as a person, as an employee, you are way more likely to want to keep giving back in. And it's just so basic.
Yeah.
Just notice, acknowledge, appreciate.
Yeah. Well, it's
NAA.
NAA.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Sorry, I was like doing the math. Um,
It's not math.
I know that was a joke, but yeah, I mean that's the psychology of motivation, right? Like why we're motivated to do anything, which
Mhm.
even to act in kindness is because there's some benefit to it. This is how we're wired.
'Cause you were talking about connection before, I might think of it as we're all interconnected. So I really love the school of thinking of what you do to others, you're basically doing to yourself.
Yeah.
You're being
Yeah.
generous to others. It is an act of generosity to yourself,
Yeah.
assuming that you are
Yeah.
not giving up all your needs and wants and making yourself
Right.
bottom of the list.
Yes.
That's a whole different energy.
Yes. We're always looking for that middle of the spectrum. Maybe not always. Um, I like what you were talking about with the belief and like where it comes from, and that maybe the judgment we're holding here is about what our feelings are about what it means to be selfless or generous and or selfish, the word selfish. And if we've got a core belief that to be selfish in any way or to do anything of self-interest in any way is kind of like a moral failing or a sin of some kind, then yes, you're going to feel like everything you do needs to be in a very black and white way about somebody else. You're not going to be able to hold any kind of comfort with the fact that this could be both. So to me, it is about changing a belief around the word selfish and also maybe reframing it to like, just because something isn't entirely selfless doesn't mean it's selfish. And that there's a spectrum of that. And what's another word we could use to indicate that we are also benefiting from something that softens that language a little bit so that it doesn't feel like the connotation of selfish.
Good question.
It's like,
It's almost like a self-enrichment.
yeah,
Like I'm enriched.
still the word self, I think, it throws people, makes them feel like they're doing something wrong. If you're ever, I think it's a reason why self-care has become such a buzz term now because it's like, it's so novel. It's like this idea that you can claim it. You can claim self-care because the idea before I think was like, no, you can't. You got to be giving all like if you're then you're selfish to do that. And we have to convince people that it's not, right? Like that's kind of the way that it's talked about. And
Mutual benefit, like any good act, there's a mutual benefit, the
yeah,
the recipient and the giver.
yeah. I think I personally like this idea of framing it as a way of connecting because I think that you can really get behind that. Like this necklace that I'm wearing two. Pretty simplistic with my jewelry. I don't wear it unless I love it. And once I put on a necklace, I don't take it off for about 5 years until it breaks. But somebody gave me this necklace. It's a heart.
Mhm.
And I love it. I love it. I love it so much. And I also love this one. So now I just wear them both. And every day I feel it because I have to untangle them. And every day, like I sort of like it has a sensory kind of component that I just like rub my finger on it. And every day I'm like, I just love this necklace so much. And the person who gave it to me was like, I thought of you, I gave you this necklace. And she's like, I feel like there's a part of me that wants you to like it. And I was like, so? So like, that's fine because every time I look at it, I'm like so grateful and it makes my day a little bit happier. It's like a little glimmer moment for me. And that's because of you. And that keeps me connected to you. And I'm fine with the fact that you got something from that too. Like it can be connecting to do stuff like this. And it's part of what you were talking about, that existential piece of like, if there are other glimmers in the world, it also speaks to our access to that. What we give out is also what we can receive. And if we frame it like that, I think it feels a lot less pathological than, oh, you get something and I get something. It's more like, no, it's like this thing we're both, it's like an enhancement for both of us in this way that happens to coincide in the same thing, and I think it's this belief. I think it's working on the belief here.
Mhm. There's a difference as well between you should be doing good things, you should be good, and actually the joy that can just come naturally of doing a good thing that you want to do.
Yeah.
There's just, I don't know, I think we are taught to behave. Just like growing up, it was always like you're good or you're naughty.
Yeah.
Like, and
Black on
so,
white.
yeah, there's a difference because we're socialized into this is how you be good in the world. Put other people first or
Yeah.
whatever the role is that you're socialized into. And so I think there's a difference when it's a socialization, a conditioning that doesn't, you haven't had a chance to really connect with your own values and think, actually, how do I want to show up in the world and show up for people? And how do I want to connect, for example?
Yeah. I wonder if those who grew up in very religious households would have more issue with selfishness and with this belief that to do anything in any kind of self-interest is undesirable.
Yeah. I don't know if it was quite as pious for me. I feel like there's something around putting other people first. That was the modeling. Actually, yeah, if I put it that way, that was the modeling because that's what my mum did. She put everybody else first. So I don't know if there was 4 pieces of meat, my dad would get the best piece and then like me and my brother would get the next ones and my mum would take,
Yeah.
the shriveled up dry piece or something like that. It
Yeah.
was always everybody else first.
Yes.
And this is where there's like a mixed motivation sometimes because I think that part of that was genuinely from love and part of it was from an insecure place as well. Like it can be both. Both motivations can coexist.
Yes.
And that's where it gets complicated as well.
Yes.
Because you might be thinking, well, actually, that's where people are going, well, I don't want this to be about my insecurities and about me needing something. But
Yeah.
it could be both. There could be a part of you, think of it in parts, it could be a part of you that wants somebody else to have the better experience. And then part of you who feels like you couldn't have taken it for
Yeah.
yourself anyway. So one that I often have when I go into a restaurant, if I'm eating with a friend and there's 2 of us, we go into a restaurant, if we have a table around the edge, so let's say there's nice soft benches and then a stupid chair. So someone gets to sit on the bench and look out into the restaurant or the view and someone has to sit on the chair. I always offer the bench
Yeah. Yeah.
to the other person.
Yeah.
And there have been a few times where I've noticed with the same person, they always take it and there's a little pang of resentment. But it really would feel very difficult for me to go, actually, I want to sit in that seat.
It would be difficult. See, that's where you want to look at it, right? It's like, oh, wherever there's that energy edge, that's where it's like, oh, what's there then? That's where that you might see the imbalance or be able to separate what's what. When you're saying 2 things are true here, both things can be true. It's like, okay, then that might be this space where there's like something to look at that's more than meets the eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there might also be a calling out at that. Like, because if you were to say, would you feel uncomfortable to say that once you'd already offered? Or is it more like going in, you're just uncomfortable with claiming that chair for yourself?
Yeah, going in, there's something in me that feels compelled to let the other person choose their seat. But not here's the interesting thing. This is probably the extrovert in me, but if I'm going out with a group, let's say there's 6 or more people, I try and get to the table first because I wanna be sat in the center. I don't wanna be at
Oh,
either end of the table.
oh, there you go.
I wanna
There it
be in the
is.
middle of it, and then I will. But if there's 2 people and it's about who gets the better view or the more comfortable seat or something like that, I'll defer.
Yeah.
I can do that, but the thought of being left out of something and, like,
Well,
I'm at
maybe
one end
that's
of the
it.
conversation and the fun's happening at the other end of the
Then you're
conversation.
controlling it. You get the benefit of control here. Here's the interest. That's funny because I would be the opposite. Like, I always want the corner. I always want the most cocooned seat. And I don't feel any qualms about taking it. Unless I know somebody else wants it, in which case, like, I have no problems with fairness. And I won't just take if I feel like I'm overtaking. But I would prefer, and I'm okay with claiming that.
Mhm,
But I also think part of that comes from not having, like,
mhm.
this going back to the scarcity idea of, like, not having enough access to the things I needed, that now I claim them quickly. And there was, and again, I think this is part of my softening endeavor, like, there was a very much swinging the pendulum the other direction for a while of, like, absolutely unapologetically being like, I'm going to take my space. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take my energy. I'm taking back. I'm taking back. I'm taking back. And I needed to do that to take back. And then there's, of course, like a balancing in the middle.
Yeah. I think for that, it's not so much what I needed, so it's not as big a deal. I'd prefer that seat, so it's not if it was that important to me, just like sitting in the middle is more important to me, so then I will take it, but it's not as important to me. Because
Yeah.
now I'm thinking back to when I was in New Jersey with you, and I was just going through where we've been and where we sat, and at Mozzarella, we sat side by side on the
What's
front
mozzarella?
seat. That's where we ate, at the, American Dream.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so we both sat do you remember we both sat on the
Yes, on the
comfortable
same
side
side.
on the same side,
Why did
and
we
then
do that?
because I think it's the nicest seats.
Huh. I don't
Because on the other
remember
side
that
it would've been chairs.
decision-making process because I never would normally sit next to somebody.
No, well, you
Hmm.
probably I would have let you sit first, and then I think I might have said, "Oh, I'll just go
Ah, okay.
that's probably how it would have
I
happened.
wouldn't have even thought
And
about it.
then and then at the other place we went to in New Jersey, I can't remember the pub, bar, restaurant place we went to.
Oh, Sterling Tavern, yes.
Yes. So I think you sat on the wall
I
that
did.
time. Yes, because it was very much a I stepped back to let you
Oh, see, I
I
didn't even
assume
think about it.
I
Like,
wouldn't I'm not sitting here going, "Oh, I remember standing back," but I
yeah,
just
no, I'm
know
like,
that
"Oh,
that would have
shoot, I
been my
just took what I
default.
wanted,"
Gosh,
which I
now
probably did.
I don't think I've ever even stopped to think about this. It's so automatic, let alone talk to anyone about it. Now I'm gonna feel really self-conscious walking
Well,
into a
now I'm gonna feel
restaurant.
self-conscious. The next time you come and be like, you go first. You go wherever you want." I wouldn't even think. I also am not, this is where it's like, I'm not somebody who, I'm not aware of things. Like, I'm very much in my head a lot. And so I'm not paying attention to what's going on in the environment to the degree that sometimes I probably come across as inconsiderate, like, because I'm not thinking about anyone else's anything, their comfort, their needs, none of it. But I'm also not thinking of my own necessarily unless there's a vulnerability. I'm just here doing other things. Like, I'm not very environmentally aware. That's always been a thing for me. And so it's interesting to think about how this might actually come across as rude. like I'm being selfish, like, again, to the degree that it is a negative thing.
We've all got our spots there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. It's funny, I was just remembering the first time this occurred to me, and I think I was 5. I must have been because I was in kindergarten. And I remember saying to my parents and walking in their room, and my cousin was sleeping over because at that point, like, that would have been, it would have had to have been her because we didn't have sleepovers at 5 years old, but she was sleeping over. And I remember that I said to my parents, like, when Laura comes, I'm going to let her have my bed and I'm going to sleep on the floor. I remember my dad saying, "Why would you do that?" And I said, "Because I want her to be happy." And I remember at that moment registering what I was saying and kind of being like, "Oh, that's interesting that I do stuff." Like, I think that I wasn't saying in those words, but I was like, "Oh yeah, I give Laura the space. I give her the comfort." Like, but I still think now, looking back on it, because I think I might have gotten a little bit like, "Yes, I'm a nice person." I think that made me think I was a nice person. But I know that the reason I did that is because I wanted her to have a good experience with me, and I wanted to be associated with a good experience,
Mm-hmm.
which is still selfish. But, like, good, fine. Like, of course you
Selfish
do. I
little
wanna
5-year-old.
connect. Like, I want her to connect to me, and I want that connection to be positive.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that runs the risk, though, of, becoming too over-reliant on stuff like that and constantly giving your space, which I didn't end up doing, clearly, because I took the seat at the wall. I took the comfort seat. So somehow I balanced it out, I guess, but, or maybe it's one or extreme or another.
Hey, I would say 9 times out of 10, the person takes the wall seat. It's okay. I don't expect
The
when
safest
I
one.
offer. It's not like I'm offering going, oh, I hope they give it to me. I'm offering, assuming that that's probably the one they're going to take.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's not like it's not a test.
Or is it?
No, it's really not. And I've got a friend who he is very paranoid, ex cop, and so wherever we are, he has to sit with his back to the wall, and he's really
Okay.
fussy about chairs and stuff like that. So I will every time let him sit there, but just because of the kind of relationship we have, I make a big fuss out of it every time.
That's nice. That actually softens the edges.
I think just for me, the key takeaway that I would want to leave the listeners with is that I think our motivations are always going to be mixed.
Mhm.
And self-sacrificing because you think you don't deserve something or because you think you should be less of a priority, I don't think there's anything noble in that. I understand it, and it comes from a place of fear, and you're just trying to make yourself safe. So there's no judgment in that either.
Mhm.
But I think many people hold on to that because they think that's what makes them a good person.
Yeah, let that set you free.
Mm.
If it's not noble,
Mm.
I think that crashes into identity. If you set your identity up to be a good person based on your good deeds, you don't need to do that.
Yeah. No, don't do that.
Just don't do that,
Just,
guys.
just stop doing it now.
Stop
Come
it.
on now. Enough
Have we
already.
get on with it.
Speaking of enough already.
Ooh, good one.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I also noticed, by the way, that we have received some ratings and reviews on this podcast. And so thank you for listening and for taking the time out of your day to go do that for us. So if you haven't yet, we would love if you would take some time out of your day to do that for us, which is a selfish motivation.
Yeah.
And I stand by it.
Yes, you could leave a review and then you'd get to feel really good about that too.
Right, exactly.
So,
That's how we bring it all home.
You're welcome, guys.
We'll practice it that way and see how it feels and report back.
Yeah. Well, no, don't report back because then
That's right.
don't
Keep it
tell
anonymous.
anybody about it, and then
Don't keep it anonymous. Okay, bye.
All right, bye-bye.